Hi everyone, good evening. Our group's topic is China as cultural superpower. I'm Quintina, and we have Sufi, Ying, and YT. As we know, we live in the age of the internet. The internet allows citizens to communicate with each other directly, create a new form for modern society that can spur signals of discontent and organize movement against the government before those information are disappeared. According to some studies, the Internet's ability to serve government and make it impossible for anything to be kept secret. However, in fact, media control in China is an open secret. This phenomenon is not limited to the people who had never traveled about, did not jump the firewall, and rarely used the Internet. It was also very common among some high-income, globally traveled, well-educated Chinese citizens. Information censorship is quite powerful in modern China. Some studies have shown that there is about 1 to 10% of social media posts are removed by the government on the Chinese social media sites. The fact that information about those domestic events is possible to access suggests that difficulty of access is due to lack of interest rather than government control. Market research provides evidence that most of Internet users are lazy consumers of information and only consume the most accessible information. Government, which are the main gatekeeper who guiding and providing access to information, decide what information the public are most likely to read. However, the possibility of access does not mean that citizens will consume information. Even though censorship is easily overcome, the people often do not have the patience to do it. Next, I'm going to introduce some examples to show how the Chinese government to control the media source. In March 2010, Google began redirecting traffic from the mainland to its Hong Kong website, which does not forbidden by mainland China censorship policies. Finally, in June 2014, before the 25th anniversary of Tiananmen Square protests, the Chinese government blocked Google service outright. Like Google, Wikipedia had a long-fought relationship between the Chinese government. Created in 2001 and first blocked in 2004, particular page of Wikipedia such as description of the Tiananmen Square protests has long been blocked. The entire Wikipedia site was again subject to the Great Firewall block on May 19, 2015. On the very different situation, another widely popular social media website, Instagram, was also blocked in 2014. On September 26, 2014, pro-democracy protests broke out in Hong Kong. Thousands of people took to the streets in what later became famous as the Umbrella Revolution. On September 29, 2014, the Chinese government blocked the social media website Instagram from mainland Chinese IP address due to the increased popularity among the Hong Kong protesters. Those websites include a wide range of content that the Chinese government dislikes. From news websites that regularly report on sensitive events in China, like the New York Times, to companies that refuse to censor content at the direction of the Chinese government, for example, Twitter, Facebook, and Google. In this case, using a VPN has become a way to jump the Great Firewall. The VPN users sometimes have to pay small sums of money and must be patient, since VPN access to the internet also can be quite slow. VPNs are also regularly blocked and through, and therefore jumping the firewall sometimes requires several working VPNs. China has around 649 million internet users, which is about 48% of the Chinese population. The vast majority of internet users access the internet from their mobile phone, but only 5% of urban residents reported that they had jumped the firewall. The study found that citizens who jump the firewall tend to be highly educated, concerned about politics, and have skills to overcome censorship. There is a significant increase in those who jump and know about the Great Firewall for those younger than 35. A report includes a question to ask users who know that VPNs were possible but did not jump the firewall. Only 2% of these users said that they did not jump the firewall because they were scared, and only 9% of the users because of the legal concerns. And the 45% of users said they didn't have a reason to do it, while 15% of users did not know how, and 14% of users think it was too bothersome. This report shows that the users have no reason to overcome rather than fear or them to keep people living under the Great Firewall.
We are required to read and share with you guys. The article we are required to read is called Conscience, Direction and Diversion Inside China's Great Firewall. Chapter 5 is called The Powerful Influence of Information Fraction. In this chapter, the author mainly talks about how and why the censorship can help government manage the conversation by dominating it rather than stalling it, specifically for Chinese government. Now, there's two main ways that Chinese government use to control the access of people getting information. The first one is called counterfeiting, control the spread of information. And the second one is called Great Firewall, block the information from outside the wall. Now, both of them are related to my personal experience. And in this presentation, I'm going to talk about how counterfeiting control the spread of information. Now, Mr. Roberts, which is the author, during his research, found that people living in China exhibited surprising ignorance about Chinese domestic events that had made highlight in international press. Although this ignorance was widespread among Chinese citizens who had not traveled abroad, did not jump the firewall, and rarely used the internet, it was also surprisingly common among tech-savvy, global-traveled, well-educated Chinese citizens. Turns out that counterfeiting do not only decrease the accessibility of information, it also can disaggregate accounts of an event, reducing the salience of the event and increasing uncertainty about what exactly occurred. In other words, even some people may hear some story, but if they cannot find this information right away, they may think that it's not that important. Now, in one of his interviews about the protests of Inner Mongolia in China, one of his responders said, and I quote, "A few minutes later, she remembered that indeed a friend of hers had mentioned something about it, but when she looked for the information online, she couldn't find any. Her assumption had been that the protest itself could not have been that important if she had not received a word." Now notice that this responder is not just a regular Chinese people. She actually is a young professional who had studied abroad in the United States. She also frequently jumped the firewall and connect with her friend in the United States on Facebook. Although for the most part, she read news in Chinese form government newspaper like People Daily. To have a better understanding of counterfeiting and the censorship, I'm going to introduce the case of Tibetan self-immolation. Instead of talk about the detail of this tragedy, which cannot fit into the presentation, I'm going to focus on what happened next after this tragedy happened. After this tragedy happened, to discourage such protest event, the Chinese government responded instantly to the self-immolation event, removing the self-immolators as quickly as possible, and increasing policy presence to prevent protests in the aftermath. Now, this tragedy happened in 2012 when I was in high school, and I don't have any memory about this thing. The fact that I don't have any memory can tell you guys how well the Chinese government blocked information for us. However, in Mr. Robert's research, he found out that more discussion of self-immolation on weekends when censorship is lower. So you see, depends on how quickly censorship occurs. Many of those posts are available to reader only for a number of hours. And this phenomenon happened recently. Again, in order to understand why people can still access information even though the government is trying to censorship it, I'm gonna introduce the case of Dr. Ifen, which happened recently. Now, Dr. Ifen is actually the very first person who tried to warn everyone the existence of coronavirus. Now, recently, an interview about her censors has been trying to erase from all the internet. It's a Chinese magazine called 人物 or People. But this time, the Chinese people won't accept it. What they do is they try to circumvent it by creating different versions of this interview. They even create a version of emoji and coding version. Mr. Robbins also have similar argument in his research. He said, indeed, many scholars who have maintained that censorship cannot work in the age of information have argued that eventually users will discover the information because censorship is porous and they will learn to circumvent it.
Let me talk about an example of cultural superpower in China. A few days ago, an international website, AO3, was banned in China. The full name of it is Archive of Our Own. It is an online platform for reading and creating novels. Free of charge, and the article contributions are all from website users. It was awarded a prize of Hugo Award for Best Related Work in 2018. Before telling you why is it banned, please let me explain these words, CP fans and fanfiction. CP is a couple. CP fans refer to fans who love a pair of lovers in a TV show or novel and keep the fantasy that their relationship is real in their lives. Include boy and girl's love, boy and boy's love, and a girl's love. And fanfiction is a type of text written by these fans, which is based on original works and popular elements. It usually uses the established characters to extend the original plot line and timeline. Fast creators can both keep the original settings and create new characters or develop new relationships. In other words, it is a kind of more liberal work, but only popular among the groups of CP fans, like China's Lofter app and Archive of Our Own are platforms to upload, store, and read these literatures. The reason why Archive of Our Own was banned is reported by Xiaozhan's fans. A creator published a fan fiction in Lofter app. The content feminizes Xiaozhan and set him as a street girl, which made his fans angry. Because those fans are different from CP fans, they only love Xiaozhan and disagree with any couple. They reported the creator and the online platform to the related department with reasons like porn, insult Xiaozhan's personality, and so on. The result of the event was the novel was removed from Lofter. The creator cleared social media and would not continue to create. Someone uploaded the novel to Archive of Our Own because it is a foreign website, but it was banned in 2 days as well. But actually, feminized male characters in fanfictions are very common. Fanfiction is simply a product in fan groups and satisfies CP fans' fantasy that they are a couple. Beyond the novel, we don't associate the characters with the celebrities themselves. It is worth mentioning that Xiaozhan becomes famous precisely because of the novel and the TV series They Untamed, which describes boys' love. his role is the feminist one in Boys Couple. But finally, his fans reported this kind of literature. Many readers of fanfiction said they would resist Xiaozhen because they lost all literatures on the archive of our own. It seems like a battle among fans, but while their report was successful, it is still the reflection of cultural superpower in China, and the popularity of the Untamed caused the special policy struggle against homosexuality. Something about the same-sex love must be modified to friendship in the TV series. As we can see from the archive of our own event, there are many special cultural policies in China. We lost an international website again, and the creation is lack of freedom. All the works should be careful in case it's labeled political correctness. So what is political correct? Like these movies to promote the beauty and strength of our motherland. Some scenarios that reflect social reality are not allowed. Besides, the National Radio and Television Administration imposed many restrictions on films, televisions, and TV shows.
So in terms of China's cultural superpower, I would like to add on another example. The Confucius Institute, which is one of the Chinese government's cultural policies since 2004. So the Confucius Institute is a public educational organization under the Ministry of Education of the People's Republic of China. The program began in 2004 and it is overseen by Honban. It is the Office of Chinese Language Council International. Also in the slide you could see there is an advertisement recruiting students to join their program, and also their logo, the one in green and white. They aim to promote Chinese language and culture, support Chinese teaching internationally, and facilitate cultural exchanges. The institute is in cooperation with local colleges and universities around the world, and financing is shared between Honban and the host institution. And besides the institution, they also have a smaller scale called Confucius Classroom Program. So all these program, classroom and institution, they will collaborate with local secondary school, which will provide teachers and instructional materials. What I mentioned is the program began in 2004, so we could see now the first Confucius Institute is in Seoul, South Korea, which is open on 21st of November 2004. And during this more than 10 years, we always heard that learning Chinese is a kind of trending now. So maybe we could really see the so-called trending in the data. Like 548 Confucius Institute, more than 1,000 classrooms in primary school and secondary school in 154 countries and regions, and millions students and more than 40,000 teachers. And actually during the period when the institution has been operated for more than 10 years, there were some suspension crises happen in between. But I couldn't list out all the suspension cases, so I just chose some of the important universities which had the program before and now they cancelled already. So we could see the University of Chicago. They announced the cessation of cooperation in 2014, and then just 3 months later, the Pennsylvania State University also terminated the cooperation. And in next month, the Stockholm University of Sweden also announced that they will close the Confucius Institute in June in that same year due to the expiry of contract. And people usually will take this case as a symbolic meaning because the Stockholm University of Sweden is also the very first Confucius institution in Europe, which is founded in 2005. And the last one is in end of August 2019, just last year. The New South Wales University announced that they will completely withdraw the Confucius Institute local program. Just right after that, the local university hosted the Confucius Institute have signed the agreement giving China the decision-making power in teaching in the institution. From all these cases, we usually see the official announcement of termination or cessation, usually with a reason of the contract expire, and they decided to not continue the program. However, there are lots of voices that are criticizing the organization due to the concern of rising Chinese influence in the countries. And in fact, there are not only Confucius Institute exporting culture to overseas countries, but also the other ones from Europe, like from Portugal, from Britain, from France, Italy, Spain, and also like Germany's Goethe Institute. So for what reason the Confucius Institute from China is always being criticized? So maybe we could see a comment from Human Rights Watch. They say the Confucius Institute is an extension of the Chinese government because the teachers from the institute is always recruited by the Hanban, and always from most of them are from China, and maybe some of them are from the local city in the overseas country, and they must be politically correct under the system. So maybe this is the most crucial concern for the academic freedom and political influence in the campus. So I try to make a brief conclusion over the whole topics we mentioned about. And the most contradictory point I feel is the nature of dominating from the Chinese government is still not able to fit in the general concept of culture in the world. And on the other hand, China's economic is developing rapidly, and hopefully after the virus, it gives China such a strong power to export the culture what they want. So maybe we could put it in Q&A, and let's discuss a little bit about China's superpower.